Rain fell like the sky's confession, pouring over the open plains in silver sheets. Each drop struck the earth with purpose, heavy and unrelenting, until the horizon itself seemed to dissolve into water. A single rider cut through the storm, Eli Carter, his coat plastered to his shoulders, his hat bent low against the wind. The rhythm of his horse's hooves was the only sound that belonged to him anymore. Everything else, the thunder, the emptiness, the ghost of her voice, belonged to the storm. He had ridden through 3 towns without stopping. Each one carried whispers he no longer wanted to hear. A man who'd once been loyal. A man who'd lost everything over a lie. The woman he'd loved, Clara, had turned her gaze to another, his own blood brother. Betrayal had hollowed him out, leaving behind a quiet that hurt more than rage ever could. He rode to outrun that silence, but the storm found him anyway. Lightning split the sky. His horse startled, stumbled. Ahead, through the curtain of rain, a faint light flickered from an old wooden cabin. He thought it a mirage at first, a lantern swaying in the wind, but the scent of wood smoke carried on the wet air told him it was real. He guided the horse toward it, dismounting with stiff hands. The storm clawed at his back as he knocked on the door. It opened slowly. A woman stood there, her presence quiet but unyielding. Her hair, long and black as midnight, clung to her cheeks. The firelight behind her turned the rain on her skin into tiny stars. She was neither startled nor afraid, only watchful. "You shouldn't be out in this weather," she said, her voice calm as river stone. Eli hesitated, his throat raw from wind and regret. "Didn't mean to intrude. Just need to wait it out." She stepped aside, letting him in without another word. The warmth inside was a mercy. The scent of cedar and sage drifted from the hearth, grounding him in a way he hadn't felt in months. He removed his hat, shaking loose a cascade of rainwater, and looked around. The cabin was small, built with care and memory. Woven blankets, carved symbols on the beams, the faint hum of something sacred in the air. He glanced toward her as she poured water into a pot over the fire. The flicker of flame traced her features, strong jaw, eyes that held both storm and silence. "You live here alone." "For now," she said. Then, after a pause, "My name is Ayanna." Eli nodded. He didn't offer his yet. They sat in silence for a while, the kind that doesn't demand to be filled. When she handed him a cup of warm tea, their fingers brushed. His pulse stumbled. He hadn't realized how cold he'd become until her touch reminded him of warmth. "You've been riding a long time," she said softly. Not a question, an observation. He stared into the cup, watching steam rise like ghosts. "Too long. Someone chasing you?" "No. Just leaving something behind." Ayanna studied him, her eyes reflecting the fire's glow. "You can't outrun what lives inside you." He looked up sharply, meeting her gaze. For a moment, he saw no judgment there, only understanding, quiet and deep. He wanted to tell her everything, how trust had turned to dust, how love had become a wound that wouldn't close. But he couldn't find the words. So he said instead, "Sometimes leaving is the only way to survive." Outside, thunder rolled closer, pressing against the cabin walls. The wind howled like a wounded thing. Ayanna rose and secured the shutters. When she turned back, the lantern light caught the turquoise pendant at her throat. He recognized the craftsmanship, handmade, tribal, precious. It suited her, something ancient, unbroken. "The storm will pass," she murmured, settling back near the fire. "But sometimes, it leaves something behind that changes the land." Her words settled over him like truth disguised as prophecy. He stared into the flames, the image of Clara's face flickering and fading with each crackle. For the first time in months, he allowed himself to breathe without the weight of memory crushing his chest. After a long silence, he said quietly, "I once thought love could weather anything. And now I think love is the storm." Ayanna tilted her head, eyes softening. "Or maybe love is what's left standing when the storm is done." He didn't answer. He couldn't. The fire hissed as rain leaked through the roof and met the coals, a sharp, fleeting sound. Outside, Lightning tore open the sky, bright enough to reveal the world beyond the window, a shadow moving through the rain. A figure on horseback, distant but real. Eli froze. His hand went to the revolver at his hip, instinct before thought. Ayanna turned toward the window, her calm unbroken. Someone you know? He stepped closer to the door, heart pounding. Through the sheets of rain, he could make out the silhouette. Broad shoulders, a familiar hat, a horse he'd know anywhere. His brother. The taste of betrayal rose again, bitter as iron. Ayanna watched him quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. You said you were leaving something behind. Looks like it found you instead. The thunder cracked like a gunshot. Eli's grip tightened on the doorframe. Outside, the storm raged harder, as if the heavens themselves wanted to keep him from choosing what came next. Dawn came pale and uncertain, a thin light brushing the soaked earth. The storm had passed, but its voice still lingered in the wind that curled around the cabin like a restless spirit. Eli hadn't slept. He'd sat near the door all night, revolver in his lap, listening to the rain taper into silence. Ayanna moved quietly around him, tending to the embers as if the night hadn't cracked open old ghosts. When he finally looked at her, he saw calm, not ignorance of danger, but acceptance of it. He holstered the gun but kept his eyes on the horizon, where the storm clouds retreated in torn ribbons of silver. His brother was out there. He felt it in the ache beneath his ribs, the kind that came from years of shared blood and broken trust. Ayanna poured tea into 2 tin cups, her movements slow, deliberate. She handed him one, her gaze steady. You can't start every day ready for war, she said softly. The world will mistake your armor for your skin. Eli took the cup, its heat sharp against his palm. He wanted to tell her that war was all he knew now, that once you've been betrayed, peace feels like a lie. But her eyes disarmed him, patient and searching, the kind that saw through defenses without drawing blood. He drank the tea, the earthy taste grounding him. You knew someone would come, didn't you? Ayanna didn't answer right away. She stirred the fire, sending sparks dancing toward the ceiling. The world is small when pain walks before you. It carries your name farther than you think. Eli stood, restless, moving to the window. The land outside was drenched, washed clean, but tracks were visible in the mud, fresh hoofprints leading toward the ridge. His brother hadn't gone far. He turned back to Ayanna, voice low. He'll be back. Then you must decide whether to face him or forgive him, she said. Forgive him. Eli's voice cracked like dry wood. He took everything. The ranch, the woman, the future I built with my own hands. Ayanna's gaze didn't waver. And what did holding that loss give you? He had no answer. Only the sound of rain dripping from the roof, one drop at a time, like the slow ticking of regret. She stood, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders, the turquoise pendant at her throat glinting in the new light. My father once said storms are not punishment. They are correction. They show what was weak, what must be rebuilt. Eli's jaw tightened. Maybe some things aren't worth rebuilding. Her voice softened, almost a whisper. Then maybe you never meant to build them right. He turned away, anger flaring then dissolving into exhaustion. She wasn't cruel, her words carried no edge. They simply left no place to hide. He walked to the door, needing air, needing distance from her calm that unsettled him more than any threat outside. The valley stretched before him, washed in pale gold. Mist rose from the earth like breath. He saw movement by the ridge, one rider, waiting. His brother, Thomas. Same stance, same arrogance. The sight of him reopened the wound like it had never healed. Ayanna appeared beside him, her shawl fluttering in the breeze. You don't have to fight him. Eli's hand brushed his revolver. Maybe not, but I have to face him. She looked at him long, her expression unreadable, then reached for something near the hearth. When she turned back, she held a small carved totem, a hawk with wings spread wide. My father carved this the night he made peace with a man who burned our home. He said forgiveness doesn't erase the fire, it just stops it from burning you every day. Eli accepted the totem, the smooth wood warm from her hands. For a moment, the storm inside him went still. He walked toward his horse, every step heavier than the last. The sun broke through the clouds, painting the wet earth in light. Thomas rode forward, smirking, hand resting near his holster. "Didn't think you'd have the guts to show your face again, brother." Eli stopped 10 paces away. The air between them felt charged, the quiet before a second storm. "I didn't come to settle old scores," he said. "Just to understand why." Thomas's smile faltered. "Why? She chose me. You were too blind to see it coming." Rage rose like thunder, but Eli held it down, his hand resting on the hawk totem in his pocket. He thought of Ayana's words, of storms that correct rather than destroy. "You didn't take her," he said finally, voice steady. "You just showed me who she really was." Thomas sneered, but something flickered in his eyes, a brief flash of uncertainty, of guilt, maybe even shame. Before either could speak again, another sound cut through the air, the sharp report of a rifle. Eli dropped to the ground as the bullet tore through the space where he'd stood. From the ridge above, figures emerged, bandits, not loyal to either brother, drawn by the echo of their feud. Thomas turned, startled, reaching for his gun. Eli raised his head, the world narrowing to a single realization: the storm wasn't over. It had only changed shape. Behind him, Ayana's voice rose over the wind, steady, urgent. "Eli, come back inside." He looked once more at his brother, the years of hurt between them shimmering like heat on the horizon. Then he turned toward the cabin, toward the only light still burning.